It's right at 60 yards. Today's the 25th of July. And like I said in my last video blog, I'm going to take a 4-arrow, 60-yard group at least once a week until we get into the hunting season. And I have not drawn my bow back yet today. So this is going in cold, just like you would if you were hunting. It's a little bit breezy, which is going to make it tougher to hold a group, but the bow is fairly well sighted in now. So I'm just going to take my 4 shots and go down and see where they're at. My goal is to try to get a group, consistently get groups about the size of my fist. And that's a pretty aggressive goal for me at 60 yards. But I've got a while yet. I mean, don't have to really be at that point until get into October. And I'm not planning on taking 60-yard shots when I'm hunting. I just like this 60-yard practice because then it makes the shots that we take at normal hunting distances feel a lot easier. Ooh, I was doing good until that one. That bow was moving around quite a bit. That's one thing I noticed early in the program is you get a lot more inconsistency because your muscles aren't quite strong enough yet to stay fully relaxed at full draw when you're aiming. So I think I had 3 pretty good ones and 1 real bad one. So we got something to build from. That's my, I've taken a couple shots obviously back here at 60 during the week since I sighted the bow in. We got what, August, September, 2.5 months. I mean, if I can't get at least a few groups down to the size of my fist in that period of time, I'm just not trying very hard. As we're walking up there, there's a red oak tree that I'm going to walk underneath, and that thing's just loaded up with acorns. And I've really noticed that now as I've been out with the tractor planting and just kind of looking around. The red oaks, they seem like they're holding a lot of acorns this year. So these 3 weren't too bad. Obviously we need to tighten those up, but this one was bad. The bow was just floating around too much when that one went off. And like I said, that's mostly just related to not being in quite good enough shape yet to be able to stay really relaxed at full draw and let the bow just sit there while I'm squeezing off. So it's a place to start. I'm not going to measure that group, but hopefully here starting next week, I'll start running a tape measure around them and try to figure out, you know, from week to week if the groups are getting smaller. So next, I'm going to grab the RTP Genesis drill and I'm going to go out and plant some Big N Beasty. And the thing I like about these no-till drills, we haven't had rain now for, I think, 4 days maybe, but there's still a lot of subsoil moisture. So when I put the seed into the ground rather than tilling it up and putting the seed on top of the ground, there's a lot of moisture there already that's going to germinate the plant and get it started growing. Whereas if you till it and then plant into that tilled ground, you have to wait until there's a rain before it actually germinates and grows because that top part dries out. So we'll go out and get, I think I've got 13.5 acres left that I've got to get planted. Some of these are spots where I planted beans and the beans just didn't work. Whether the deer got into them and I had to plant them late and they nipped them off, or if it was just, you know, typically that's what I've run into. And a couple of them are just spots that I'm gonna plant just specifically for planting Big N Beasty.
Realtree's Midwest Whitetail is brought to you by Cuddyback, America's Best Bowstrings, Drake Non-Typical, Easton Arrows, Frigid Forage, Fuse, Grizzly Coolers, Hoyt, and Realtree.
I'm almost to the spot where I'm going to plant the Big N Beasty, but I'm driving by the second location that we put up the electric fence. Just thought I'd give you a quick update. It looks really good. I mean, the corn inside looks awesome. The fence is still clicking away. This is in that area where I'm hoping to get a crack at the big 8-pointer and then that buck that I called Scarface from last season. Hopefully they're still alive. We'll get the cameras out here pretty soon and find out. Thought you'd get a kick out of seeing how this spot is doing. Overall, I'm pretty impressed. This is just a little small spot on the bottom field here that I sprayed. This was that big field that I hunted all the time last year, where I hunted in the middle of it, I hunted one end, hunted the other, but it seemed like no matter where I hunted, the bucks we were after were just always out of bow range. So I'm trying to make it more appealing for them to come to this end. I've got a tree stand in one of these big trees right up here in the corner of this big field. I'm going to put some Big N Beasty right in this little spot that I sprayed, and then we're going to go down the way and plant another whole little small field. So all three of these spots, that cornfield on top that we're just at, this little spot right here, and then that little bottom we're going to go to next and plant, they're all three focusing on targeting hopefully those two bucks that were in here last year. I mentioned earlier about how no-till works so much better when you're planting at this time of the year, when you don't know how often you're going to get rains. So if you watch when I put the seeds, when I drop the drill down and start planting and get the seeds into the ground, you'll see that underneath the surface of the ground there's a lot of moisture down there. So this stuff will start growing right away. Even if we don't get a rain, it'll be popped out of the ground here within a couple of days. And I mean, that's perfect for summertime planting. Once again, you don't want to have to rely on tilling and then those rains to come in order to get your seeds to germinate. The RTP Genesis does a great job. It's a no-till planter. It's got the little wheels on the back that allow you to set the depth. So I plant this Big N Beasty pretty shallow. It likes to be in there just about a half an inch or so. We got a couple more projects to do today, but we're making some good progress. Got one more project left today, but first, Drake and Josh have been out doing a little bit of velvet filming in this neighborhood. A couple times on the farm, just in spots that are easy to get to. We haven't dove into any of the more secluded spots yet. We're going to save that until we get into August. And then my last project is going into this spot where I started, and there are some openings in the corn where the corn is a little bit thin. So I'm going to spread some Big N Beasty in there and fill those little openings in. And that's going to be it for today, for this episode. One last thing though, August 1st is our annual release date for Chasing November. So Chasing November Season 4 is going to release August 1st, and the first place it's going to be shown is the Realtree 365 app. And you can pull that down to either your iPhone, your Android phone, your computer on 365.realtree.com, or you can go on Roku or Fire TV or Apple TV and find the Realtree 365 app. So you can watch Chasing November starting August 1st on the Realtree 365 app, and then we're going to be putting it on our normal channels after that. Well, I appreciate you joining me. I'll be back here probably in another week. We're going to do a little bit of traveling here, spend a little family time, and then I'll get that bow back out, and hopefully I can shoot you a little bit tighter group than what I did today.